Hello, everyone. This is Luis Concepcion from Strategic Profit Line Trading coming to you with the plan of the week for week number 45. It is November 5th, and let's get into it. So, as always, this information is for educational purposes only. I will not be giving any investment advice. Everybody knows that this is not tailored for any one individual, and everybody must understand their time horizon. Past performance does not guarantee future results, and all events involve risk, including the loss of principal. As always, for this week's agenda, I'll be covering the news, I'll provide a market overview. This week is another heavy week of earnings. As you can see, we have 1,355 companies reporting earnings this week. I'll be covering the FANG stocks, and I've been asked to cover the Magnificent Seven, so I will go over those as well. So the following is this past week's results. I just want to let you know that last weekend I provided 17 zones. Six out of three zones worked on the stock. And on options, we were 9 for 2, and there was 8 zones that meant no entry. As I previously stated, I was out of town, and these are the results for the previous week. Provided 13 zones. We were 8 and 2 on stock and 4 and 0 on options, and there was 4 zones that did not meet entry. Now, moving into this week. As I said, we have a slew of earnings, and again, as always, I will not be covering all the zones. However, I went through the majority of these charts, and I'm going to provide zones for things that I think will hit this week or we have a chance of getting into. So for our news this week, as you can see on Monday, November 6th, we have nothing impacting the US markets. However, for those of you who trade Forex, understand that at after hours at 7:30, the Australian dollar will be affected. Moving on to Tuesday, nothing again affecting the US markets. For those of you who trade, again, trading Forex, pay attention to the New Zealand dollar after hours. On Wednesday, pre-market, we have Fed Chair Powell speaking. Remember that this past week I mentioned, depending on what he would do, it would impact the markets, and it did significantly. He decided to keep rates unchanged, and the market took liking to that, and we had a great rally this past week. We also have CPI after the market. Moving on to Thursday, we got unemployment claims pre-market, and we have the GDP being affected after market. And for Friday, we have our consumer sentiment report, and that's going to do it for our news this week. All right, moving into the charts this week, we're going to start with the SPX. As you can see, the zone that I gave last week held very well. It penetrated really deeply, but after Powell spoke this week, we had a significant rally. So this zone is still intact, and that zone is 41.42 to 40.97 on the SPX. And for supply, I have 44.40 to 44.66. Understand that we got two gaps to fill down below. Moving on to tech, QQQ, as you can see, uh, never made our level because we turned on the SPY on the SPX. So we never made this level. So this level still intact for demand. We got 341.21 and 335.56 on the demand side. We're gonna move this level because it's already been penetrated. However, we may hold here, as you can see. We attempted to come here, and that's because the S&P 500 is coming into the supply, and we pulled off. So for the Qs, I'm gonna move our level to this one right here. And that new level for supply is gonna be 381.64 to 384.94. Moving on to the Dow. So here we go for the diamonds. So for the diamonds, you can see on the demand, I got 322.41 for you to 320.32. And we got 344.27 to 347.68. Understand, as you can see, all the majors are coming into supply, so don't be surprised if we have a profitable Monday and Tuesday and we retreat all the way back down and give these profits back this week or give half of it back to fill our gap. Moving on to the rut. Our level held on the rut. And on the demand side, I got 1647.18 for you to 1527.66. On the supply side, I got 1822.98 to 1842.49. That's gonna do it for us for the major indices. Now, moving on to earnings for the week. First company I'm gonna start with is Berkshire Hathaway. They have earnings on Monday morning pre-market. As you can see, on the supply side, I got 357.10 to 363.46. So for those of you who want to go directional, feel free to purchase the appropriate puts. For those of you who want to do a vertical, you can do a 364 or 365 by 370. And if we happen to come back down to the demand, this area is still in play, and that's the 330.73 to 327.58. Feel free to purchase the appropriate calls, or you can do a 325 by 320 vertical. Next company I'm going to cover is Brookfield. They have earnings again on Monday as well. On the demand side, I got 29.12 for you to 28.36, and on the supply side, I got 32.32 to 33.14. Those zones are probably not going to pay enough significant verticals, so you're going to have to go directionally, whether in stocks or options. Next company on Monday is going to be Old Realty. So on the demand side, I got 45.35 to 43.42, and on the supply side, I got 53.64 to 54.64. Moving on to Tuesday, we got Uber. So on the demand side, I got 40.18 to 38.56. As you can see, this is the previous area and zone that held previously, and it worked. And on the supply side, I got 54.30 to 56.16. Next company I'm gonna cover is Oxy. So for Oxy, the zones I have for you on the demand side is 59.68 to 59.11. And on the supply side, 66.92 to 67.70. Next company I'm gonna cover is Gilead. So for Gilead, on the demand side, I got 75.07 to 73.89. And on the supply side, I got 83.53 to 84.40. Moving on to Wednesday. First company I'm gonna cover is Roblox for Wednesday. As you can see, we're approaching this supply area. I got 36.61 to 38.81. And on the demand side, I got 27.69 to 26.79. Next company is going to be Under Armour. So for Under Armour, on the demand side, I got 647 to 629. And on the supply side, I got 764 to 788. Just be mindful that this is a stock that's under $10. So, everybody knows how I feel about stocks under $10. And shorting them may not be the most wise thing to do. However, these are the zones for you, for those of you who have minimal capital to trade. Next company I'm going to cover is Bib. So for Bib, on the demand side, I got 201.47 and 194.19. And on the supply side, I got 293.31 to 298.99. Just be mindful that this is a biotech company and this company likes to overshoot. So just be cognizant of that this week. Next company I'm covering for this week is Disney. Great mouse. So on the demand side for you, I got 79.48 to 78.68. And on the supply side, I got 88.75 to 89.38. And got two companies for you on Thursday. The first one I'm going to cover is Yeti. Now, Yeti on the demand side, I got 38.99 to 37.53. And on the supply side, I got 48.25 to 49.52. Last company I'm going to cover in respect to earnings is the Trade Desk. So for the Trade Desk, I have 71.03 to 69.25 on the demand side. And on the supply side, I got 84.51 to 86.41. And that's going to do it for the companies that I have for you this week in respect to earnings. Next, I'm going to cover the FANG stocks. So let's start off with Meta. On Meta, there's no change. Still using the same zones we've been utilizing for the last couple of months. So on the demand side, 275.79 to 268.64. And on the supply side, 321.74 to 345.08. Next company I'll be covering is Apple. So for Apple, I left this zone up here because we haven't breached it, but remember that this is the zone we shorted a couple of weeks ago and it took us back down to demand and both levels work beautifully. However, because neither one has been breached, if you want to take them again, feel free. However, on the demand side, 167.09 to 159.73 for my aggressive traders, you can utilize the 181.34 to 83.90 again. However, if the market continues to project higher, this is the more conservative trade for Apple, and that's going to be 190.53 to 192.50. Moving on to Netflix. For Netflix, we still have the level that we traded off a couple of weeks ago, and it took and projected us off, and now we are at supply. So for supply, you got 433.85 to 453.66, and on the demand side is the level trade we took a couple of weeks ago, the 345 to 329, and both those levels are still intact. Moving on to Google, which was a trade that triggered for us this past week. And as you can see, we still have intact the 122.83 to 118.17 on the demand side. And on the supply side, we got 141.66 to 145.15. And that's going to do it for us with regards to the FANG stocks. So I was asked if I can discuss what the Magnificent Seven was and what is the big to do with the Magnificent Seven. The Magnificent Seven comprises of Apple, Microsoft, Google, Nvidia, Meta, Tesla, and Amazon. And the big thing that's being discussed is that as of Friday, and this changes on a week-to-week basis, but as of Friday and the data that I pulled, these seven companies comprise of 28.25% of the S&P 500. So that's what they're saying that is keeping up the market. And that's why they're focusing so much on the Magnificent Seven. If one of these companies were to not perform, it can drag the market down. So cover most of those markets. However, for the ones that I don't, because they're not part of the FANG stocks, one I'll cover now is Microsoft. So for Microsoft, on the supply side, what I have for you is 357.21 to 362.87. And on demand side, I have 299.37 to 292.42. Next company I'm going to cover is Nvidia. And as you can see, our level held here last week very, very well. And that's still intact. We got the 392.89 to 381.58 on the demand side. And on the supply side, we got 481.38 to 488.57. Next company I'm going to cover for the Magnificent Seven is Tesla. And this level held for us as well. We had the 193.47 to 177.36 on the demand side, and on the supply side, we got 249.87 to 257.02. And the last company I have for you this week is going to be Amazon. And Amazon, as you can see, we closed into this level on Friday, and it's starting to pull away. Depending on how we open up this afternoon and tomorrow. This may still be in play for this week. So you got the 139.07 to 141.73, and more conservative trade, you got the 149.64 to 158.86. Our level held here on the demand side, we got 118.59 to 113.70, and that's gonna do it for the charts this week. So as promised, I'm providing you the
last week,
stats because I was gone last week, and here we go. So this is for our stocks and wins. This is week 38 through 43. You should already have this content in the previous videos. So I'm gonna skip to last week, and I've added week 43 and 44, and that brings our stocks, wins, and losses to 24 and 9. Moving on to options. Again, this is starting from week 38, and I've included week 43 and week 44. As you can see, we are now 21 and 2 when it comes to our options plays. As always, here's my contact information. Feel free to follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn throughout the week as I may post new trades or changes to the trades that I've already provided and zones that I've provided. If you want to learn more on how I find my zones and how do I cover and find opportunities, feel free to email me if you'd like to if you'd like to learn more. Or if you have my contact information, feel free to contact me. You can go onto the website for classes. For those of you who know I go dark, feel free to email me. I go dark in the end of November and December. However, you can contact me if you'd like to work something out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button. Till next time, please have a plan. Happy trading. See you next week.